Hey guys, Boris. Welcome to the crosses section from Feb 13th to Feb 17th, 2017. And the play this week is really going to be against the calm dollars and a little bit of pound weakness, pound strength actually, as we look at some of the possibilities that I chose here. Let's take a look at the crosses because I think they're a little bit unusual this week, but very much worth it. One of them is very conventional. Pound Aussie, resistance 65, 62. This actually looks surprisingly weak on the charts and really a strong signal for how strong the Aussie is and has been on a relative basis. We're going to take a look at it in more detail on the charts here, but the trade here to the downside could accelerate, especially if we see any kind of a pound decline, possibly. And one of the interesting things here is, of course, UK data has been very strong. What if UK data surprises to the downside? That would be a big shock, and that could create a little bit of a downdraft in a pound. Aussie just simply remains the same, which I think Aussie will. CAD yen, really interesting trade to the downside here because of the yen crosses. The yen story has just not been, as I said, very strong over the last month and a half. And one of the more interesting trades here on the distribution side is the CAD yen story between the 85 and the 87 range. And then, of course, the much more conventional, the very obvious trade, and it's obvious because it seems to be very true, is the whole Aussie Kiwi to the downside, Aussie Kiwi to the upside. I'm sorry, the relative weakness of the Kiwi, very pronounced last week. And the question is, if we get dollar weakness this week, this is the critical thing. Let's say Yellen comes in dovish and everybody begins to sell dollars. That makes Aussie a relative strength trade, I think, to some degree, and therefore provides the additional juice we need to see in the Aussie Kiwi trade. Let's take a look at the charts here and just kind of deconstruct how everything looks. So first, starting with pound Aussie, and this is, I think, surprisingly weak on the charts here. You look at this, sort of a failure all the way to the downside continuously since really beginning of this year. But what's interesting here is the fail above the 165 and a very, very sharp downdraft move here into the close of the week last week. Now the beginning of this week, we start right at this 62.50 support level. A break towards 62 really opens up the move towards the 160, and that's why I think it's kind of a momentum trade here to the downside that definitely worth a look even before Yellen talks, just simply on cable weakness alone on a relative basis. The CAD yen trade, on the other hand, is very similar to just basically the yen trade. There's just sort of this is sort of a less volatile derivative of the dollar yen trade itself, which is a multiple failure of lower highs continuously, with 85 being the very key support. 85, I guess, is going to be sort of very equal to the 1150 level on the dollar yen. So it's a sort of a derivative trade on a lower volatility basis against a trade. There's not much really. Again, Canada becomes to me sort of a quiet trade this week, unless oil, of course, pops up. Now, oil, a decline in oil. This is the interesting thing. If you get sort of a decline in oil and a decline in the dollar, that definitely provides a very, very interesting trade to the downside. So unless dollar CAD takes out 87.50 to the upside, we have a big yen move. The trade to the downside here could be quite interesting, and a move down to 85 could be very, very interesting. The last trade, as I said, the most obvious trade of the week, which is the Aussie Kiwi to the upside, the big breakout after the RBNZ just kind of destroyed the Kiwi. We took out the 106.50, and now the very, very natural move towards the 107, a pure momentum trade to the upside. Looks quite good. The 107.50 obviously a much bigger resist point, but there's 100 points here of potentially extension here, especially if the dollar strength, if the dollar trade this week weakens out. So that's how it goes. These are the basic cross trades. Again, they're all really based on a relative idea that the dollar is going to get sold this week, and we're going to trade the relative strength, except for the pound Aussie, which I think is kind of an interesting trade on the pound itself. Wish you guys the best of luck, the best of trading. Boris, over and out.